The stars stretched endlessly before Elias's battered spaceship, a tiny speck drifting through the black void of a distant galaxy. Inside the cockpit, Elias sat alone, his rugged face lit by the faint glow of flickering control panels. His eyes, heavy with grief, scanned the emptiness. Years ago, he had lost Lila, his wife, to a mining accident on a far-off colony. Her laughter still haunted him, a ghost he couldn't escape. Now he wandered, scavenging ancient ruins to survive, chasing whispers of forgotten treasures to fill the hole in his heart. A soft, strange sound broke the silence. It was faint at first, like a bell ringing far away, but it grew clearer, a beautiful, haunting chime that seemed to hum with life. Elias froze, his hand hovering over the ship's controls. "What is that sound?" he whispered, his voice rough. "It's calling me, but it feels alive." His scanner beeped, but it showed nothing. No signal, no source. The chime wasn't just noise. It was a melody, pulling at something deep inside him. He adjusted the ship's sensors, narrowing the signal's origin to an uncharted sector. The coordinates pointed to a barren asteroid floating in the void, far from any trade route or colony. Elias hesitated. He was low on fuel, and his ship's hull was barely holding together. But the chime grew louder, almost like a voice, and he couldn't ignore it. "This better be worth it," he muttered, steering his ship toward the unknown. The asteroid came into view, a grey, jagged rock drifting in the starry blackness. At its center stood a massive structure, unlike anything Elias had seen. It was Broken Bells Diaries. Elias stood frozen in the dark tunnel inside Everbell, his flashlight shaking in his grip. The haunting chime of the alien structure echoed around him, but now it wasn't just a sound. It was a voice soft and familiar, singing a melody that tore at his heart. "Lila!" he whispered, his voice trembling. The air felt heavy, like it was watching him. The tunnel walls glowed faintly, carved with strange swirling patterns that seemed to move in the shadows. Behind him, something stirred in the darkness, and Elias's pulse raced. He wasn't alone. Moments ago, he had stepped through the hidden door in Everbell, drawn by the chime that had called him across the stars. The vision of a crying woman, looking so much like his lost wife, Lila, still burned in his mind. The tunnel stretched deeper into the structure, its walls cold and smooth, etched with images of two alien figures, a man and a woman, locked in an embrace. Their faces were strange, with sharp features and glowing eyes, but their love felt human, raw and real. Elias traced the carvings with his fingers, feeling the chime vibrate through the stone. It was louder now, almost like it was guiding him. He took a cautious step forward, his boots echoing in the silence. The air grew colder, and his scanner beeped wildly, detecting a life form nearby. But the readings made no sense. Whatever it wasn't human, and it was close. Elias tightened his grip on his flashlight, sweeping the beam across the tunnel. The light caught something, a flicker of movement, like a shadow slipping out of sight. His heart pounded. "Who's there?" he called, his voice swallowed by the chime's hum. Suddenly, a faint glow appeared ahead, and a holographic figure flickered into existence. It was tall, with a shimmering, translucent body, its face half hidden by a hood. The figure spoke in broken English, its voice crackling like static. "You seek the chime?" it asked, tilting its head. Elias stepped back, his hand reaching for the small blaster at his hip. "What are you?" he demanded. The hologram's eyes glowed faintly. "Love binds it. Death breaks it," it said, its words heavy with meaning Elias couldn't grasp. Before he could ask more, the hologram flickered and vanished. The tunnel rumbled, and the walls began to close in, grinding with a low, menacing groan. Elias's eyes widened. "No, no, no," he shouted, sprinting deeper into the tunnel to escape the trap. The chime grew louder, almost screaming as if it was angry. His flashlight beam danced wildly, catching glimpses of more carvings, scenes of destruction, a planet burning, and the same two alien lovers standing amidst the chaos. Just as the walls threatened to crush him, Elias stumbled into a small chamber. The walls stopped moving, and the chime softened, but it was still there, pulsing like a heartbeat. In the center of the chamber sat a small, glowing crystal, no bigger than his fist. It radiated a soft blue light, and the chime seemed to come from within it. Elias approached, his breath shallow. The crystal hummed, and Lila's voice whispered again, faint but clear. "Find me, Elias." His knees buckled. "How is this possible?" he whispered, tears stinging his eyes. He reached for the crystal, his fingers trembling. The moment he touched it, a shock ran through his body, and the chamber lit up with images, flashes of the alien lovers, Kyle and Vara, laughing under a strange sky, their hands intertwined. The crystal was more than a stone. It held memories, emotions, maybe even souls. Elias clutched it tightly, his mind racing. Was Lila's voice real, or was Everbell playing tricks on him? The HFY spirit in him, human stubbornness, refusing to give up, pushed him to keep going, to find answers no matter the cost. But the chamber wasn't safe. A low hum filled the air and the ground vibrated. Elias spun around, his flashlight catching a pair of glowing red eyes in the darkness. A robotic drone, sleek and spider-like, emerged from the shadows, its metal legs clicking against the floor. Its eyes locked onto the crystal in Elias's hand. "Intruder," it hissed in a mechanical voice, raising a claw that sparked with energy. Elias dove behind a stone pillar as a laser shot passed him, scorching the wall. He fired his blaster, but the drone was fast, scuttling across the ceiling. The crystal pulsed in his hand, and another vision flashed. Vara, the alien woman, standing in this very chamber, her face twisted in fear as the chime grew deafening. She looked so much like Lila it hurt. Elias gritted his teeth, ducking another laser. "I'm not dying here," he growled, his human defiance kicking in. He aimed his blaster at the drone's glowing eyes and fired, hitting one. The drone screeched but didn't stop. The crystal glowed brighter and the air shimmered. The drone froze, its head tilting as if listening. Elias stared, confused, as the crystal projected a faint image of Vara's face into the air. The drone's claws lowered and it spoke, its voice softer now. "She returns." Elias's heart skipped a beat. "Who is she?" he demanded, stepping forward. But the drone powered down, its lights fading, leaving him in silence except for the chime. The crystal burned hot in his hand, and Lila's voice whispered again, "Don't stop, Elias." The chamber shook, and a distant rumble echoed through Everbell. Something bigger was waking up. Elias looked at the crystal, then at the drone, his mind racing. Was Vara connected to Lila? Was the chime a trap or a plea for help? He didn't know, but he wouldn't give up, not when the answers were so close. Suspense. The chamber's rumble grows louder, and cracks appear in the walls. The crystal pulses faster, and Elias hears footsteps. Something or someone else is coming. He grips his blaster, ready to fight, as the chime sings louder, calling him deeper into Broken Bells Diaries, a towering, alien-made tower that glowed with faint blue light. Its surface was covered in strange, glowing runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. The chime Elias stood in the glowing chamber deep inside Everbell, his hand trembling as he clutched the pulsing crystal. Its soft blue light bathed his rugged face, but it was the voice inside it that shook him to his core. "Don't let me go again," whispered Lila, his lost wife, her voice faint but clear. Tears welled in Elias's eyes, his heart torn between hope and doubt. Behind him, the spider-like drone lay silent, its red eyes dark after the crystal projected an image of Vara, the alien woman who looked so much like Lila. But the air hummed with danger, and a low rumble shook the chamber. Something was coming. Elias wiped his eyes, his jaw tightening. He was a scavenger, a survivor, and no alien ruin would break him, not even one that played with his heart. The crystal's glow flickered, and the chime of Everbell grew louder, vibrating through the stone walls. He stuffed the crystal into his jacket, gripping his blaster as he scanned the shadows. The drone's words, "She returns," echoed in his mind. Was it talking about Vara, Lila, or something else? He moved cautiously, his flashlight cutting through the dim chamber. The walls were alive with carvings, telling the story of Kale and Vara, the alien lovers from a long-dead world. Elias's beam lingered on an image of Kale holding a crystal, like the one in his pocket, his face full of pain. The chime felt heavier now, almost like it was pulling Elias deeper into Everbell. He didn't know if it was a trap, but his human stubbornness, the HFY fire in his soul, pushed him forward. He had to know the truth. A sharp hum broke his thoughts. Red lights flashed in the darkness, and another drone scuttled into the chamber, its metal claws clicking. "Intruder!" it hissed, firing a laser that grazed Elias's arm. He dove behind a carved pillar, pain searing his skin. "Not today," he growled, firing his blaster. The shot hit the drone's leg, but it kept coming, faster than the last. Elias ran, his boots pounding against the stone floor as lasers scorched the walls around him. He stumbled into a new chamber, larger than the last, filled with floating orbs that glowed like tiny stars. The chime was deafening here, shaking the air. The orbs hummed and images flickered inside them, memories not of Elias but of Kyle and Vara. In one orb, Kyle and Vara danced under a sky filled with two suns, their laughter mixing with the chime. In another, Vara lay still, her body lifeless, while Kyle screamed, the crystal in his hand glowing red. Elias's heart ached. Their love mirrored his and Lila's, beautiful then shattered. The drone burst into the chamber, its claws slashing. Elias ducked, rolling behind an orb that exploded in a shower of sparks. The crystal in his pocket burned hot, and a new vision hit him. Vara standing in a storm, the chime roaring as she whispered, "Save him!" Elias gasped, his mind reeling. Save who, Kale? Himself? The drone lunged and Elias fired, hitting its core. It collapsed, sparking, but the chamber shook harder, dust falling from the ceiling. Elias clutched the crystal, his breath ragged. The orbs glowed brighter, showing more of Kale and Vara's story. Kale had built Everbell to trap their love in the chime, to keep Vara's spirit alive after her death. But something went wrong. The chime grew wild, tearing their world apart. Elias's stomach twisted. Was the crystal doing the same to him, pulling him into a trap? Lila's voice whispered again, "Find me, Elias." He wanted to believe it was her, but doubt gnawed at him. The drone's wreckage sparked, and its head twitched. "She returns," it croaked, its voice weaker now. Elias froze as the crystal pulsed, projecting Vara's face into the air. Her eyes, so like Lila's, stared at him, full of sorrow. The drone's claws twitched, as if it recognized her. "Vara," Elias whispered. The image flickered, and the drone shut down completely, leaving him in silence except for the chime. The chamber rumbled again, louder now. Cracks snaked across the walls and the orbs pulsed wildly. Elias's scanner beeped, showing a massive energy spike coming from deep within Everbell. The crystal was waking something dangerous. He backed away, his mind racing. Was the chime a message of love or a weapon? Was Lila's voice real, or was Everbell using his pain against him? His human heart refused to give up, but fear crept in. He wasn't just fighting for answers, he was fighting to survive. Footsteps echoed behind him, heavy and fast. Elias spun, blaster raised, but no one was there. The orbs dimmed, and the chime grew softer, almost pleading. He looked at the crystal, its glow steady now. "What are you?" he whispered. The air shimmered, and another vision appeared. Vara, holding the crystal, tears streaming down her face as she said, "The chime never fades." The vision faded, and the footsteps grew louder. Closer. Elias stood in the trembling chamber deep within Everbell, the glowing crystal clutched tightly in his hand. The haunting chime of the alien structure roared like a storm, shaking the stone walls around him. Lila's voice whispered from the crystal, soft and desperate, "Don't stop, Elias." His heart pounded, torn between hope and fear. Was it really her, or was Everbell playing tricks on his grieving soul? The shadow at the chamber's entrance loomed larger, and before he could move, a harsh human voice crackled through his radio. "Elias, you found it! Hand over the crystal or you're dead." Outside, a sleek scavenger ship hovered, its guns aimed at Everbell's glowing surface. Elias's eyes narrowed. He knew that voice. Mara, a ruthless scavenger he'd crossed paths with years ago. She was cunning, greedy, and never traveled alone. Elias gripped his blaster, his human stubbornness, the HFY fire in his blood, refusing to let him back down. "Not today, Mara," he muttered, diving behind a carved pillar as the chamber shook again. The crystal burned hot in his pocket, and the chime grew louder, almost angry, as if it sensed the danger. Mara's voice crackled again. "Don't be stupid, Elias. That crystal's worth more than your life. Give it up and maybe we let you walk." Elias peeked out, seeing flashes of light outside Everbell. Her crew was blasting their way in. He didn't have much time. The chamber's floating orbs, still glowing with memories of Kale and Vara, flickered wildly. One orb showed Kyle holding the crystal, his face twisted in desperation as he whispered to Vara's lifeless body, "I'll bring you back." Elias's stomach twisted. Was that what the crystal did? Did it hold souls or something worse? He ran deeper into Everbell, his boots echoing in the narrow tunnels. The chime guided him, its melody both beautiful and terrifying. Mara's crew was close. He could hear their shouts and the hum of their drones. Elias stumbled into a new chamber, larger than the others, its walls covered in a massive star map that glowed with faint blue light. The map showed galaxies, stars, and a pulsing line stretching far beyond, like the chime was a signal meant to reach something or someone across the universe. The crystal pulsed in his pocket, and another vision hit him. Kale stood in this same chamber, holding the crystal as Vara's voice echoed, "Don't do this, Kale, it will destroy everything." Kale ignored her, pouring his love and pain into the crystal. The vision shifted, showing their planet crumbling, cities burning as the chime grew wild. Elias gasped, stepping back. The crystal wasn't just a memory, it was a key, maybe a weapon. Had Kale's love for Vara doomed their world? Was Elias doing the same by holding it? A loud crash snapped him back to reality. Mara's crew burst into the chamber, 3 armed scavengers with sleek rifles and a buzzing drone. Mara stepped forward, her sharp eyes locked on Elias. "Hand it over," she said, smirking. "That crystal's got power, enough to run a fleet or blow up a planet. I don't care what it does as long as I get paid." Elias backed away, his blaster raised. "You don't know what this is, Mara. It's not just energy. It's alive." Mara laughed, but her eyes were cold. "Alive, you're losing it, Elias. Last chance." The drone hummed, its laser charging. Elias's heart raced, but his human defiance burned brighter. He wasn't giving up. Not when Lila's voice was tied to the crystal. He dove behind the star map's console as the drone fired, the laser scorching the floor. The crystal glowed hotter, and the star map lit up, showing a countdown in alien symbols. Elias's scanner translated it. 10 minutes until something activated. His blood ran cold. Was the chime about to destroy everything, like it did Kale's world? He fired his blaster, hitting the drone's core. It sparked and fell, but Mara's crew charged. Elias ran, dodging bullets, the crystal's heat searing his skin. He slid into a narrow passage, the chime roaring in his ears. Lila's voice whispered again, "Save us, Elias." Us? Who else was she talking about? Vara, Kale? The passage led to a dead end, a wall carved with Kyle and Vara's faces, their hands reaching for each other. Elias pounded the wall in frustration, his HFY spirit refusing to quit. "I'm not done yet," he growled. The countdown on his scanner ticked down, 8 minutes left. Mara's crew was closing in, their shouts echoing. The crystal pulsed, and a hidden panel in the wall slid open, revealing a glowing control panel. Elias hesitated, then slammed his fist on it, desperate to stop the countdown. The star map flickered and the chime softened, but the crystal burned brighter, projecting Vera's face again. "Protect the chime," she whispered, her eyes pleading. Elias stared, his heart racing. Was it Vara or Lila? Could he trust the crystal, or was it leading him to his death? Mara's voice boomed behind him. "Nowhere to run, Elias!" Her crew blocked the passage, rifles raised. The countdown hit 7 minutes. Elias gripped the crystal, his human will unbreakable. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for Lila, for answers, for the truth behind Everbell's chime. Elias stood at the edge of the hidden shaft, the crystal burning in his hand as the chime of Everbell roared like a living storm. Mara's crew blocked the passage behind him, their rifles glinting in the dim glow of the alien chamber. "Nowhere to run, Elias," Mara shouted, her voice sharp with greed. The star map's countdown ticked down, 6 minutes until something catastrophic activated. The crystal pulsed, and Lila's voice whispered, "Hurry, Elias, save us." His heart pounded, torn between fear and the stubborn human fire that refused to let him quit. He glanced at the shaft, its darkness calling like the chime itself, and made his choice. Elias dove into the shaft, sliding down a smooth, glowing tunnel. The air screamed past him, and the crystal's light lit the way, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Mara's shouts faded, but the chime grew louder, vibrating through his bones. He landed hard in a vast circular chamber, the heart of Everbell. The walls pulsed with blue energy, and in the center stood a massive, glowing orb, twice his height, humming with the chime's melody. It felt alive watching him. Elias's breath caught. This was no ruin. It was a machine, a heart, and the crystal was its key. He approached the orb, his boots echoing in the silent chamber. The crystal burned hotter, and Lila's voice grew clearer. "You're close, Elias, don't stop." His eyes stung with tears. Was it really her, or was Everbell using his pain to trap him? The carvings on the walls told more of Kale and Vara's story. Kale, desperate to save Vara, had poured their love into the chime, creating this orb to hold her soul. But the power had grown too strong, shattering their world. Elias's stomach twisted. Was he walking the same path, risking everything for a ghost? A loud crash broke his thoughts. Mara's crew had found the shaft, their drones buzzing down like angry wasps. "He's here!" one shouted, firing a laser that scorched the floor near Elias. He dove behind a glowing pillar, his blaster ready. The crystal pulsed and the orb reacted, sending a wave of energy that shook the chamber. The drones sparked and froze, their lights flickering. Mara cursed, her voice echoing, "Keep moving!" "That crystal's ours." Elias gritted his teeth, his HFY spirit blazing. "Not if I can help it," he muttered. He ran to the orb, the crystal guiding him like a compass. A control panel glowed nearby, covered in alien symbols. His scanner translated one word: activate. Elias hesitated. The countdown was at 4 minutes. Activating the orb could stop it, or destroy everything. The crystal showed a vision. Vara, her face pale, begging Kale to destroy the orb before it consumed their world. "Love isn't enough," she whispered. Elias's heart ached. He saw Lila in her eyes, felt her loss all over again. But his human will pushed back. He wasn't Kale. He could do this right. Mara's crew reached the chamber, their boots pounding. Elias fired his blaster, hitting one scavenger in the shoulder. The man screamed, but Mara charged, her rifle aimed at Elias's chest. "Give me the crystal," she snarled. The orb hummed louder, and the crystal burned, projecting Vara's face into the air. Mara froze, her eyes wide. "What is that?" she stammered. The image flickered, and Lila's voice spoke through it. "Protect the chime, Elias." Mara's crew hesitated, spooked, but she shook it off. "It's a trick." "Shoot him!" Elias ducked as lasers flew, the orb pulsing wildly. He slammed his hand on the control panel, praying it was the right move. The orb glowed brighter, and the chime became a deafening roar. The chamber shook, and the star map from the previous chamber flickered into the air, showing the countdown. 3 minutes. But now a new image appeared, a signal shooting from Everbell to a distant point in the galaxy. Elias's scanner beeped. The signal was waking something massive. His blood ran cold. Had he just doomed the universe? The crystal pulsed, and another vision hit him. Kyle standing before the orb, tears streaming as he realized his mistake. The chime hadn't saved Vara. It had trapped her, turning her love into a force that destroyed everything. Elias staggered, doubt creeping in. Was Lila trapped too? Was the crystal using him? Mara's voice snapped him back. "Last chance, Elias!" She aimed her rifle, but the orb sent out another energy wave, knocking her crew to the ground. Elias seized the moment, sprinting to another passage as the chamber trembled. He ran, the crystal's heat guiding him. The passage led to a small, quiet room, its walls smooth and glowing. In the center sat a pedestal, perfectly shaped for the crystal. Elias's heart raced. If he placed the crystal there, would it stop the countdown or unleash the chime's full power? Lila's voice whispered again, "Trust me, Elias." He wanted to, but fear gnawed at him. The footsteps of Mara's crew echoed closer, and the countdown ticked to 2 minutes. His human spirit roared. He wasn't giving up, not now. Elias stood before the glowing pedestal in the quiet room deep within Everbell, the crystal burning like a star in his hand. The chime roared through the walls, a wild living song that shook the air. Lila's voice whispered from the crystal, urgent and clear. "Now, Elias." The countdown on his scanner ticked down, less than 1 minute until the signal from Everbell reached something massive in the distant galaxy. Mara's crew was closing in, their footsteps echoing like thunder. The pedestal pulsed, waiting for the crystal, but doubt gnawed at Elias. Would placing it stop the catastrophe or unleash something worse? His human heart, fueled by the HFY fire of defiance, refused to give up. He had to try. The room trembled, and a distant roar echoed, deep and guttural like a beast waking from a long sleep. Elias's eyes widened. What was that? He muttered, gripping his blaster. The crystal showed a vision. Kyle standing at this same pedestal, his face twisted with fear as he placed a crystal into it. Vara's voice screamed, "No, Kyle!" as the chime exploded, tearing their world apart. Elias's stomach churned. Was he about to repeat Kale's mistake? Lila's voice cut through. "Trust me, Elias." He wanted to believe her, but the roar grew louder, shaking the floor. Mara burst into the room, her rifle raised. "Time's up, Elias!" she snarled, her crew fanning out behind her. Their drones buzzed, red eyes glowing. Elias dove behind the pedestal as a laser scorched the wall. The crystal pulsed, and the pedestal glowed brighter, its light syncing with the chime. Elias's scanner beeped. 30 seconds left. He peeked out, firing his blaster, hitting a drone. It sparked and fell, but Mara charged, her eyes locked on the crystal. "That's mine!" she shouted. Elias's heart raced, but his human will, the HFY spirit, burned stronger. He wasn't fighting just for himself. He was fighting for Lila, for answers, for the truth. He dodged another laser, rolling across the floor. The crystal burned hotter, and another vision hit him. Vara trapped in a glowing void, her hands reaching out as the chime sang her name. "Save him," she whispered, her face so like Lila's. "Save who?" "Elias, Kyle." The roar shook the room again, and cracks spread across the ceiling. Something was breaking free. Elias scrambled to the pedestal, the crystal pulling him like a magnet. Mara fired, the laser grazing his shoulder. Pain seared through him, but he gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. "You don't know what this does," he shouted at Mara. She laughed, cold and sharp. "I know its power, and I'll sell it to the highest bidder." The countdown hit 10 seconds. Elias's hand hovered over the pedestal. Lila's voice begged, "Do it, Elias." The roar grew deafening, and the floor cracked, revealing a dark void below. He slammed the crystal into the pedestal. The room erupted in light, and the chime became a scream, shaking Everbell to its core. The star map flickered above, showing the signal stopping just before reaching its target. The countdown froze. Elias exhaled, but the relief was short-lived. The roar turned into a screech, and the void below the floor pulsed with energy. A massive shadow rose, its form vague but huge, with glowing eyes that stared at Elias. "You woke me," it growled, its voice shaking his bones. Mara's crew froze, their faces pale. "What is that?" one whispered. Mara lowered her rifle, stepping back. The shadow loomed, its eyes fixed on the crystal. Elias's scanner beeped. The entity was tied to the chime, a guardian or a prisoner of Everbell. The crystal glowed, projecting Vara's face again. "Free me," she whispered. The shadow roared, reaching for the pedestal. Elias yanked the crystal out, and the shadow screeched, its form flickering. The chime softened, but the room kept shaking. Mara snapped out of her shock. "Get the crystal!" she yelled, lunging at Elias. He ducked, running toward a glowing tunnel that opened in the wall. The shadow's eyes followed him, its voice echoing. "You cannot hide." Elias's heart pounded, but his human defiance pushed him forward. He wasn't done yet. The tunnel twisted deeper into Everbell, the chime guiding him like a heartbeat. His scanner showed the shadow's energy fading, but it wasn't gone. It was waiting. The crystal pulsed, showing another vision, Kyle facing the same shadow, his hands trembling as he held the crystal. "I did this for you, Vara," he said, tears falling. The shadow consumed him, and the chime screamed. Elias stumbled, his mind racing. Was the shadow what destroyed Kale's world? Was Lila trapped in it too? He tightened his grip on the crystal, his HFY spirit refusing to let fear win. "I'll find you, Lila," he whispered. Mara's crew was still behind him, their drones buzzing. The tunnel led to a narrow bridge over a glowing chasm, the chime echoing below. Elias ran, the bridge shaking under his feet. The shadow's roar faded, but its presence lingered, watching. The crystal burned, and Lila's voice whispered, "You're almost there." Almost where? Elias didn't know, but he wouldn't stop. Elias sprinted across the swaying bridge, the glowing chasm below Everbell pulsing with eerie light. The crystal in his hand burned, its chime a desperate song that urged him forward. Lila's voice whispered from it, soft but urgent. "You're almost there, Elias." Behind him, Mara's crew closed in, their boots pounding and drones buzzing. Mara's rifle glinted as she aimed, shouting, "Stop or you're dead!" The shadow's voice, deep and menacing, echoed faintly from the chasm. "Give me the chime." Elias's heart raced, but his human spirit, the HFY fire that refused to break, pushed him on. He wasn't giving up, not when he was so close to the truth. The bridge trembled, its glowing surface cracking under the weight of pursuit. Elias leaped to the other side, landing in a narrow tunnel that glowed with the same blue runes as Everbell's walls. The chime grew softer, almost mournful, guiding him deeper. His scanner beeped, showing the shadow's energy lingering in the chasm, watching but not following yet. Mara's voice echoed, "You can't hide, Elias." A laser scorched the tunnel wall near his head, and he ducked, his shoulder still aching from her earlier shot. He clutched the crystal, its heat steadying him. "I'm not hiding," he muttered, his defiance burning. The tunnel opened into a small circular chamber, its walls smooth and glowing with a soft golden light. In the center stood a simple altar, carved with images of Kale and Vara, their hands joined around a crystal like the one Elias held. The chime was quiet here, almost peaceful, but it felt alive, waiting. Elias approached the altar, his breath shallow. The crystal pulsed and Lila's voice spoke clearly. "This is it, Elias, the truth." His heart ached. Was she really here, or was Everbell using her to trap him? A vision hit him sharper than before. Kyle stood at this altar, holding the crystal, his face wet with tears. Vara's voice echoed, "The chime holds us, but it's not enough. Let me go, Kale." Kale refused, pouring his love into the crystal, binding Vara's soul to Everbell. The chime grew wild, and a shadow rose, the same one Elias had seen, consuming Kale as their world burned. Elias staggered, the vision fading. The crystal wasn't just a key. It was a prison trapping love and pain. Was Lila trapped too? Mara's crew burst into the chamber, their weapons raised. "End of the line!" Mara snarled, her eyes locked on the crystal. Elias spun, blaster ready, but the crystal glowed brighter and the altar hummed. A wave of energy pulsed, knocking Mara's drones to the ground, sparking. Her crew hesitated, but Mara stepped forward unafraid. "Give it to me, Elias, or I'll take it from your body." Elias's jaw tightened. His HFY spirit roared. He wasn't letting her win, not when Lila's voice was so close. The altar glowed and the crystal pulled toward it, like a magnet. Elias's scanner beeped. The shadow's energy was rising again, drawn to the crystal's power. He realized the truth. The chime wasn't just Vara's soul. It was a signal, a beacon that had woken the shadow. Kale's love had created it, but it had grown into something dangerous, something that could destroy galaxies. Elias's heart sank. If Lila was in the crystal, placing it in the altar might free her, or unleash the shadow completely. Mara fired, and Elias dove behind the altar, the laser grazing his arm. Pain seared through him, but he gritted his teeth, his human will unbroken. "You don't understand," he shouted. "This could kill us all." Mara laughed. "I don't care. Power's power." The crystal pulsed and Lila's voice begged, "Place it, Elias, free me." He wanted to trust her, but doubt clawed at him. The shadow's roar echoed closer now, shaking the chamber. Cracks spread across the walls, and the golden light flickered. Elias stood holding the crystal over the altar. Mara's crew aimed, but the crystal projected Vara's face, her eyes pleading. "End it," she whispered. Mara froze, her rifle lowering. "What is that thing?" she muttered. Elias's hand shook. If he placed the crystal, he might save Lila, or doom the universe. His scanner showed the shadow moving, its energy surging toward the chamber. The chime sang louder, a mix of hope and warning. He made his choice, driven by human courage. He slammed the crystal into the altar. The chamber erupted in light, and the chime became a scream, shaking the walls. The shadow's roar filled the air, and a massive form began to rise from the chasm outside, its glowing eyes locking onto Elias. Mara screamed, her crew firing wildly at the shadow. The altar pulsed and Lila's voice cried, "You did it, Elias." But the shadow laughed, its voice booming, "The chime is mine." The chamber collapsed, stones falling as the shadow loomed closer. Elias grabbed his blaster, his HFY spirit refusing to surrender. He wasn't done fighting, not for Lila, not for the truth. Elias stood in the crumbling chamber, the crystal glowing in the altar, as Everbell shook around him. The shadow loomed massive in the chasm beyond, its glowing eyes burning with hunger. "The chime is mine!" it roared, its voice rattling Elias's bones. Mara's crew fired wildly at the shadow, their lasers useless against its dark form. The chime screamed, a mix of beauty and terror as the walls cracked and stones fell. Lila's voice faded, replaced by Vara's desperate cry. "Run, Elias!" A hidden door glowed in the wall, leading to Everbell's core. Elias's heart pounded, but his human spirit, the HFY fire that refused to break, burned brighter. This was his last chance to save Lila, stop the shadow and end the chime's curse. He sprinted toward the door, dodging falling debris. Mara shouted, "Don't let him escape!" But her crew scattered as the shadow's claws swiped, crushing a drone. Elias dove through the door, landing in a vast glowing chamber, the heart of Everbell's core. A massive crystal, larger than any he'd seen, pulsed in the center. Its light synced with the chime. The walls were alive with carvings of Kale and Vara, their love story etched in every line. Elias's scanner beeped. The shadow's energy was surging, drawn to the crystal's power. The chime was its prison and its weapon. The crystal in the altar had activated this core, but it hadn't stopped the shadow. Elias approached the massive crystal, his hand trembling as he held the smaller one from his pocket. Vara's voice whispered, "Break it, Elias, free us." His heart ached. Was Lila trapped in there too? A vision hit him. Kyle standing in this chamber, pouring his soul into the crystal to save Vara. The shadow rose from his pain, a monster born of love, twisted into despair. The chime had trapped them both, binding their souls to Everbell. Elias's eyes stung. He saw Lila in Vara's pain, felt his own loss in Kale's desperation. Mara burst into the chamber, her rifle raised. "You're done, Elias," she snarled, her face twisted with greed. The shadow's roar echoed, its form seeping through the walls like smoke. Elias dodged as Mara fired, the laser hitting the massive crystal. It cracked and the chime screamed, shaking the chamber. The shadow laughed, its eyes glowing brighter. "Free," it roared. Elias's scanner showed the crystal's energy spiking. Breaking it would destroy Everbell, maybe the galaxy. But it might free Lila and Vara. Elias's human will, the HFY spirit, surged. He wasn't Kale. He wouldn't let love destroy everything. "Mara, stop!" he shouted. "You'll kill us all!" She laughed, aiming again. "I'll take my chances." The shadow lunged, its claws slashing at Mara. She screamed, firing wildly, and Elias seized the moment, running to the massive crystal. The smaller crystal burned in his hand, and Lila's voice spoke, clear and soft. "I love you, Elias, let me go." Tears streamed down his face. Letting go meant losing her again, but keeping her could doom everything. The shadow's claws grazed his back, pain searing through him. Mara fired at the shadow, but it ignored her, its eyes fixed on the crystal. Elias's scanner beeped. Seconds left before the energy surge consumed them. He raised the smaller crystal, his hand shaking. "I'm sorry, Lila," he whispered, his human heart breaking but resolute. He smashed the smaller crystal against the massive one. A blinding light erupted, and the chime became a deafening wail. The shadow screeched, its form unraveling like smoke. Mara screamed as the chamber collapsed, stones crushing her crew. Elias fell to his knees, the light blinding him. Visions flooded his mind. Vara and Kale reunited, their hands joined as they faded into peace. Lila appeared, smiling softly. "You did it, Elias," she said. "You're free." Her image dissolved and the chime stopped, leaving silence. The chamber stilled, the massive crystal dark and cracked. The shadow was gone, its energy scattered. Mara lay pinned under rubble, groaning but alive. Elias stood, his body aching, his heart heavy but whole. The scanner showed no signal. Everbell was dead, its chime silenced. He had freed Lila, Vara, and Kale, but at a cost. The emptiness hit him, but his HFY spirit held strong. He had fought for love, for truth, and won. He stumbled out of Everbell, the asteroid's surface glowing faintly under the stars. Mara's ship was damaged, her crew gone. Elias climbed into his battered ship, his hands steady despite the pain. He looked at Everbell one last time, its runes dark. The chime was gone, but its echo lived in him, a reminder of love, loss, and human strength. He set a course for a distant colony, ready to live again, carrying Lila's memory in his heart.